This is section 5.3, multiplication of polynomials. We talked about how to add and subtract them. Now we're going to talk about how to multiply them. And we've sort of already done some of this because, like this first problem, this really is just a power rule problem, right? This is a monomial times a monomial. So we're going to multiply the negative 5 and the 4 to get negative 20. And then when we multiply the x's, we're going to add the powers using that product rule. 2 plus 3 is 5, so we get x to the 5th. Right, so that's how you multiply monomials. Same thing down here on the second example. 3 and the 4 will multiply, then we'll do our x's, then we'll do our y's. Take it in pieces when you see kind of a bunch of things, right? So 3 times 4 is 12, that's easy. Don't forget your invisible 1 on the x, so x to the first, x to the third, that'll give us x to the fourth. And then y to the second, y to the third, that'll give us y to the fifth. Again, this is all multiplication, so again, I'm just adding the powers. Here we have a monomial times a binomial, right? Monomial, binomial. This is basically just the distributive property though. So I'm going to start by distributing the 3x to the 2x and the minus y. Actually, I'm going to start and finish by doing that. So 3x times 2x, 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared. That's our first piece. Then we have 3x times a minus y, so it's going to be negative. The 3 has no numbers to multiply by, so it's just kind of multiplied by 1, we have a 3. And then x times y is just going to be xy, because we can't combine those. That is our answer for the first piece. Same idea down here, we have a monomial, one piece, times a trinomial, right? We're going to distribute 3 times, just like that. Okay, so let's do it. We have n squared times negative 5n squared. So we have a negative 5, that is kind of along for the ride. N squared times n squared is going to be n to the fourth because we are adding our powers. Then we have n squared times n. Don't forget the invisible 1. This is going to give us a plus n to the third. And lastly, n squared times minus 2. That'll give us a minus 2n squared. That is our answer there. Okay, so far we've just done monomials times other things, which is kind of easy because it's basically distributive property or basic power rule stuff. We haven't done anything that tells us how to do like a binomial times a binomial, so that's what we're going to do now. And often this is taught with an acronym called FOIL. It stands for first, outer, inner, last. So what do they mean by first? They mean multiply your first two terms together. X is the first one here, x is the first one there, so x times x. And first will give you x squared. So that's your first. Then O stands for outer. Outer is the very first one and the very last one. So that means the x here, the first one, and the very last one, the minus 3. X times a minus 3 will be a minus 3x. There's our outer. Inner is these two, right? The 2 in the middle. So 2 times x, that's easy. That's going to be 2x. And then last is the last 2. Right, so this is the last one in the first binomial, the last term. In the second binomial, this is the last one. So 2 times a negative 3, that'll give us a negative 6. Oops. Negative 6. Okay, so first, outer, inner, last. All you do from there is you just add these all together, and that'll be your answer. Notice these are the only two that can combine, right? We have 2 x's there. So negative 3x plus a 2x is actually just going to give us a negative x, right? Because negative 3 plus 2 is just negative 1. So our final answer is going to be x squared minus x minus 6. You take your FOIL and you just add them all together. Now if you notice, this whole process though is really just double distribution, right? We're taking the first one and distributing it to there and there. And then we're taking the second one and distributing it to there and there. That's kind of the general principle. So FOIL is really just a tool to help you remember how to do it, but realistically it's just distribution twice. So let's multiply some more binomials. We're basically going to do FOIL the distribution way. So 10y times y, 10y times minus 1 is what we'll start with. 10y times y is 10y squared. 10y times minus 1 is minus 10y. Now we'll take the 7 and distribute it to the y and the minus 1. So 7 times y is plus 7y. 7 times minus 1 is minus 7. So there we go. The only thing left to do is combine our like terms, which are the y's. Minus 10y and 7y. That'll give us a minus 3y. And a minus 7. There's our first answer. Same thing down here. We'll take the 3x, multiply by the minus 2x and the 5y, then the minus y by that and that. So 3x times minus 2x, that'll be a minus 6x squared. 3x times a 5y, that'll be a plus 15xy. That's our first two. Now a minus y will go to the minus 2x and the 5y. Minus y times minus 2x, a negative and a negative will give us a positive 2xy. By default, by the way, we put everything in alphabetical order, so that's the only reason I put the xy, even though it's a y times x, same thing as xy. And then we have minus y times plus 5y, that'll be a negative 5y squared. Okay, our like terms are right here in the middle, 15xy and 2xy. 15 plus 2 is 17, so we get 17xy. So our final answer, minus 6x squared plus 17xy minus 5y squared. That is our final answer. Now you won't see a lot of these, but in theory you can extend this to any number of terms in your polynomial. We could take and distribute the 3x here, 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 and then the minus 2 here, here, and here. Right, you're going to get 6 terms, and then you combine all your like terms. Let's see if we can do it real quick. 3x times 2x squared, that will be 6x cubed. Then we have 3x times minus x, that'll be minus 3x squared. Last one, 3x times 4, that'll be plus 12x. Right, that was taking the 3x here and multiplying it by that piece, and that piece. Now we'll do the minus 2, and I'll kind of stack it underneath, and you'll see why. We have a minus 2 times 2x, that'll be a minus 2x squared. Then we have a minus 2 times a minus x, that'll be a plus 2x. Then we have a minus 2 times a 4, that'll be a minus 8. I wrote it in this way so now you can see how everything lines up really nice. You don't have to do it this way. But basically our 6x cubed is by itself, our x squareds combine, our x's combine, and our 8 is by itself. So our final answer, 6x cubed. Negative 3 and negative 2, that'll give us a negative 5x squared. 12 and 2, that gives us 14x, and our minus 8. Right, so even though it looks scary, it's really not that bad. You just do more steps, take it slow, be careful, and let me know if you have any questions.